Tout le monde? Huh? Yes, yeah, we're starting the meeting, so please. Thank you. So first, premier item, le quorum. Donc tous les membres sont ici, sauf Mme Boukchabari, donc on a le quorum. Merci. Est-ce qu'il y a des membres qui ont des conflits d'intérêt pour certains des dossiers? OK, merci. Troisième item, l'adoption de l'ordre du jour. Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un qui a des modifications à apporter à l'ordre du jour? C'est bon? Quelqu'un peut proposer l'ordre du jour tel que présenté? M. Boudreau, secondé par M. Bell. Sur en faveur, signé par oui. Oui. Contre non. Adopté. Merci. Prochain item, l'adoption du procès verbal de la dernière réunion. Est-ce que quelqu'un a des modifications à apporter? Bon. Is the translation working? Est-ce que la traduction fonctionne? On va essayer. C'est un nouveau système. OK, so everything's working? OK. OK, l'adoption des minutes de la dernière réunion, est-ce que quelqu'un peut le proposer tel que écrit? C'est bien. Secondé par M. Després. En faveur, signé par oui. Oui. Contre non. Adopté. Okay, so we'll hold the meeting until this works. New system, so we're the guinea pig for all of this, so we'll work it out. Okay, so while this is being resolved, I just want to mention a few things. So today there's 4 files to go through. First thing, second thing, je vais répéter en français par appel. Second thing, the meeting must end at 7. After the meeting, at our last meeting, the City Council has told us that our meetings have to end on time now. So either way, this meeting will end at 7 today. So given all that, and I assume a few of you want to speak today, we'll be restricting the comments for about 5 minutes so everybody has a chance to speak. And that's the best we can do today. En français, vu qu'on a 4 dossiers à traiter aujourd'hui et que la réunion doit terminer à 19h, c'est une nouvelle règle du conseil, on doit terminer à temps. pour être capable de passer à travers le plus de dossiers possible, puis être juste avec tout le monde. On s'attend que plusieurs d'entre vous voudraient prendre la parole. On va restreindre vos commentaires à 5 minutes aujourd'hui, surtout que ce dossier ici, on a passé une réunion de 2h30 la dernière fois sur ce dossier ici. Que je pense qu'on comprend tous que la plupart de vous sont contre le projet, mais il y a certaines choses qu'on peut faire de notre comité. Pour que tout le monde soit au courant du problème, c'est la traductrice a des problèmes de micro, donc il faut résoudre le cas avant de continuer, parce que la réunion doit être bilingue. So that everybody knows the issues with the translator's microphone, and we can't pursue this meeting until that's resolved, because everything has to be available in both languages. So we'll hope she's trying a test right now, and hopefully that will work.
Bonjour, est-ce que... Can you hear me in English for those who are attending the meeting and listening to the translation? Okay, for the participant who are listening in English, can you hear me? This is the translator.
Yeah, and assume that will be done as soon as possible.
Okay, so okay. just to answer like sir's question, if we cannot solve the problem and we will delay the question, yes, we will have the meeting as soon as possible. Eh, eh. Okay, so I think the translation works. So allô, Jonathan, m'entends-tu sur le canal anglais? Allô, Jonathan? Est-ce que tu m'entends? Testing, testing, testing. So can you hear me on the English channel? Testing. Perfect. Merci.
Okay, I'll say a few words in English. Are you hearing in French? Je parle en français. Vous l'entendez en anglais?
So you can hear me, he's talking in French, or you can hear me in English, me the interpreter?
We're good?
Check 1 2 1 2 English channel 1 2 1 2.
Good? Okay. Bon, Jonathan? Merci. Hein? Okay.
So thank you.
Okay, so let's start with the. On va commencer avec le premier dossier.
We'll start with the first file.
Colin Barley,
Barley, 607 Main Street.
Merci.
And so we have someone from the commission. Mr. Boutreau. Thanks, Mr. Chair. So the first request this evening, it's for a variance for a sign. It's at Lowe's, it's a business, 607 Main Street, the pump house. So we see like the location of the property in question. And this is a close-up of the property. It's on Main Street. It's a pump house brewery that we just opened recently. So the zoning of the property is R3, like in this case. And it's a commercial. So the requirement of the bylaw is that no part of the the sign shouldn't be higher than the wall. So you need like the sign needs to go like over, like the principle is to improve like the appearance and the safety. And there's also a provision for this one. So So it has to be, the sign has to be lower than the adjacent wall. So this one, there's a section of the wall that's above, and the portion that will be higher than the wall. So aesthetically, it's quite minor. And we communicated with the town of Shediac, and we had no objection from the administration. So some notices were sent on January 30th to all like the neighboring properties, and no objection were received on this request. So the planning act indicates like the authority like to give some variances and to create bylaws. So in this case, the motion would be, so the variance request by Colin Barley to allow like a sign like to be above like the wall of the property situated on the 6007 Main Street, PID 702779798 be approved because the variance is reasonable and follows like the municipal requirement. The condition is the sign to be installed in compliance with all the regulation. Thank you, Mr. Boudreau. So questions from the members of the committee? So we need a motion. And we have people also in the room, so do we have someone like someone from the South, calling the Bartley, or do we have any members from the public who would like to talk? So do you have members of the committee? Anyone have any question for this one? I move like it be adopted as presented. I need a seconder. Questions on the motion? If not, all in favor saying 5, saying aye, against nay, motion carried. Next item, Tony Gallant, Cornwall Drive. Mr. Boudreau is presenting too. So this was the item that was tabled at the last meeting. So we processed the variance request. So we need to take a decision on the conditional use with 2 buildings on the same lot. As explained, like it's been presented twice. So on January 16, we processed the 5 variants that were part of that request. 4 of those requests were adopted by the committee with the following condition. And the request for conditional use because the committee asked for more information. I will go through like the presentation. So we saw it like last week. So the property, which is on the Cornwall Point. So there's a close up here. It's close like to a water course. And we see like the setback for the water course as identified by GONB in the province of New Brunswick, Department of Environment. So this is the zoning map for the town of Shediac. So the land is on R3, and it's within like the sea level rise zone. This is the borough of where the land is located. And we gave also the elevation plan, so of the proposed buildings, and also the site plan that was proposed too. So the decision on January 16 had approved like the variance to increase the maximum setback to 145 meters to allow like a flat roof, increase also the maximum height to 50.5 meters, and increase the width of the access. And there's also now we have the variance to allow 2 buildings on the same lot. To allow like two buildings on the lot, it's allowed like in the bylaw, but it's subject like in terms and condition that could be established by the committee. So the comments received from the town of Shediac were all like with the net zero policies. So the water was discharged. It's not discharged like in the municipal infrastructure. it was possible to do so, but they would require like a water, like a sewer system, like for and also we would need, they would require also a traffic impact study before we could allow this type of development. The fire chief gave this comments like a roundabout or an intersection would be required to allow like a fire truck to turn around. And also the water, Shediac Water and Sewer Commission mentioned like the pumping station. The lift station was built in 1998 and it's close to 25 years ago. And at the time, there were no like a development project in this part of the town. Now it would be have 150 units. The pumping station there would be 150 units proposed. So the pumping station lift station is proposing a maximum of 120 units. So otherwise, it would require upgrades to the system. Department of Environment had indicated like the wetlands regulation restrict like the activities, like it would be very unlikely that the building permit would be delivered like close to a wetland. But the activity is still allowed, but there was also like a question on the access to get on the property. So the work will be done like to bring it for the access to bring it up to the building. So there were no other like access or any driveway accessible less than 200 meters or 6 meters. And you have to maintain also the distance, a buffer zone from the wetland. So notices were sent on January 30th to the neighboring property, like in a radius of 60 meters. And once again, for this evening meeting, while I wrote the report on the February 10th, we had 6 objections. Now I think we had like 48 was the last count. So we'll go through like the objection after. So these are the provision on the Planning Act on the file. So I mentioned I highlighted in yellow like the section that are subject to this evening's meeting because the various requests were already processed. So I will mention that it specifically talks about the Planning Act, like a municipality can adopt a zoning guide and they can design like something in particular where the advisory committee, where the PRAC committee can impose some conditions. And the committee also can so they can forbid, like when it's reasonable, they will not, if they not satisfy like I don't have that text here, like the modalities. If you allow me maybe to read it in English, so it will read it in English, so switch.
The committee can impose terms and conditions in this case, and that the committee may refuse the project if the if the compliance with the terms and conditions cannot reasonably be expected. So it is not an option to not approve the conditional use. It is to impose conditions on that use. Aussi, les modalités et
also the
conditions
modalities and condition imposed are limited like to the one of the regional service judge necessary like to protect like the properties within the zone and the health and safety for the wellness of the public, like. So that's the type of condition you could impose, like. So to be clear, like the bylaw for Shediac indicates like more than one building having 8 units, residential units and more are authorized in the R3 under like the modalities established by the condition. So it's required. So we cannot say like the use is not appropriate. So this being said, like I will read the motion that we recommend, like the conditional use to allow 2 multifamily units of 75 units on the lot on the property on Cornwall Drive also known as the PID 01098383 be approved because the request follows like the intent of the zoning bylaw to allow more, subject to the following condition. One, that we are compliant with the localization plan. Two, that only one dwelling with 75 units be allowed, and then the second the second dwelling will be approved once the sewer system and the pumping station is upgraded, like according to the Shediac and the neighbor. Three, that the traffic impact study prepared by licensed engineer in New Brunswick be submitted to the operational directors, and that the study be provided to the Service Commission by the municipal operations before issuing a building permit. Four, that the stormwater be included in the draining plan, and that the municipal operation director approve like the design before issuing a building permit. Five, that opaque fence be installed on the northern boundary of the property in compliance with the localization plan. Six, that the approbation of the fire chief of the town of Shediac be obtained before like reissuing a building permit. No, seven, that no building be allowed within like the buffer zone from the water course and the wet line. All and any other word within the or any works like in the wetland you need to get like a WAWA permit with the Department of Government, Environment and Local Government. So this ends my presentation. So on the objections we receive a few letters, and I think people are here. They will write they will read them to us. I think 42 out of the 48 letters were mostly letters like they were like a paper. I can give you like a summary of this these letters, not to read all of them like the same time, like 48 letters. So the comments were all mostly related. I will read it in English, switch to English.
Compromises the safety. The scale is not in keeping with the surrounding community. The scale could negatively impact the environment. The impacts to the bank of the river, negative impact on the safety of pedestrians using Cornwall Point, and the traffic at Main Street and Cornwall, as well as a negative impact on property values. Those were some of the highlights of those objections. And I believe we received letters from Mike Sullivan, Glenn Ward, Jacques Boudreau, and Christina Metcalf. I know Mike and Christina are here, and I'm sure they're going to want to speak. And Glenn Ward and Jacques, if they're here, they can speak as well. Otherwise, I can read those letters. But we'll go through the procedure and allow the applicant, if he wishes to speak first, I guess.
Okay.
So I bring back to
Merci,
you.
M. Boudreau. Est-ce que tu veux ajouter des commentaires sur les...
Would you like to add any comments on the items that came out of the letter to maybe answer some of the concern? No, it's more, as I said right from the beginning, it's all related to due to the fact like the building is not appropriate for the land, but that's not what we're authorized to discuss this evening. We're here to talk specifically on a variance request, and we process it according to our powers under the law. We impose the conditions that are deemed reasonable by the committee to protect like this land specifically and the neighboring properties. So there's no really other conditions other than those included in terms to ask other than the traffic impact study, and ask also an approval from the Department of Environment and the Shediac Water and Sewer System. All of those requests will be in compliance with other conditions that were already approved by the committee. Do you have any members of the committee who would like to ask any question? Mr. Bell, switch to English.
La dernière réunion, lorsque j'ai
So the
suggéré
last meeting, when I suggested to table the motion, and I said that because we did not have enough information, we'd like to get additional information. So when I went through like the request, like the second request, I do not see any new information in front of us. So maybe I'm thinking maybe I was not clear enough the last meeting in my mind as the member of the committee. In order for me to implement put some conditions in place to see like we agree like to allow the second building, like we would need like other things in front of us. For example, the traffic study like is not completed yet. Let's say like the traffic study comes in front of us and there are it includes like important recommendations and that involves the town. We could as a committee like you impose it as a condition, but because we do not have the traffic study, we can't. This is only an example. And for example, also it could be the safety, and maybe we could impose some conditions on the number of units we could allow. Like let's say, I know a building that is approved for 100 units. The second building, maybe we could put a maximum of 80, maybe if they want to divide it into like 40 per building, whatever they decide. But I think we do not have enough information, and it's a concern for me. I spent a lot of time like in that file, like more than usual, because we know like the community, there's a lot of things like that concerns the citizens. That's why I think it's difficult for me anyway, as a member of the committee, to create some conditions without really having all the information in front of us. And the developer was submitted the request. Knew at the last meeting wanted to have more information, and then a month later we do not have more information. So that's what's a concern for me. And it's a permitted use, but we can impose some condition. Cannot say yes or no. It's a matter of the conditions we can impose. And I think we can create some conditions, but I'm not sure like we will get the expected result. But at the end of the day, like at the committee, we do have like an obligation of being vigilant, and we're using like a smart growth in the community. So, and when I look at the policies established, so some politics are in place, and I do have some concerns like we do not have all the information in front of us. So the specific, like the traffic study, like it's a report that was prepared by an engineer that will be reviewed like by the municipality's engineer. I don't think like the committee should get into the position to replace like the director of public works of the municipality. The request is that the conditions so that there is a traffic impact study done by a professional and revised by a professional before like the development can go ahead. I did some research like in the history in the province, and we had some cases that went into appeal where request was not present to a committee because of lack of specific information, because an approval for a sewer system, existing sewer system, without having the approval of the sewer system, they did not want to present like the item to their committee's meeting, because it was a misapplication of the act to judge like that an item was not could not be received. So the committee can impose a condition, but to deem like the condition if it's I'm not sure like what is what practice we chose like to ask for a condition before we take the decision, either for a traffic study, environmental study. We leave it to the professional to come back with their approval of those systems. And I think due to the fact the variants were already adopted and we accepted like the setback and the height of the building, I think it establish that the development can go ahead like as presented. And so it can be done according to the plan that was presented. I'm not sure how we can change it, like so my concern is once again, you had suggestion like some conditions. And when I read like the policies established by the municipal council for similar projects, I think there could be other conditions, right? So to create those conditions, it would be great if we had access to some reports to see like what the experts are saying. I'm just giving you an example, like let's say like they're talking about runoff. We do not have to meet the net zero, but they're talking like there would be some runoff in the Scotuc River. What does it mean? What are the incidents, impacts on the river? Like, do we want to make recommendations on it? It's difficult to me on a member like to put a condition to allow the second building when we do not know what the experts will say. No, okay. So the study is mandatory. Yeah, the study will be reviewed by the municipal administration and they're taking responsibility. Let's say the study says something had to be improved. So shouldn't be something we should see, no, will be improved and it will be done before like he can get his building permit. We cannot say like we have to do the study and that will come back here. We cannot, like the authority of the committee is not to accept the recommendation of an engineer. It has to go to the municipality. I have several questions, but I'm not sure how to ask them. I will give you like another thing for the site plan, like for the second building. It shows like it will be 3 meters like from the northern boundary, which is a residence at on the other side. So as in Chediac, from what I've seen, I did some research. There's no policy like for this type of setback lines, but other municipalities I saw like they will require like if the height of the building is 15 meters, they will require like a 15-meter like setback, so it doesn't interfere. So is it something we can impose a condition? So these things could be added, and I just have to get back also to the point you accepted like one condition like it has to be in general compliance with the website that was presented. So it will create like it has to be done in accordance with the plan. So another condition will say we have to change the plan. We have to specify that the variance we gave is they are for phase one, not phase two. The two buildings are included in the variance. So the two buildings like are subject to the same variance. So you can impose conditions. You're allowed to. Any questions from the other members? Mr. O'Brien, yeah. I have a question for Jeff. So the way I understand, if I understand well, like it's not the decision of the PRAC committee this evening to see like if the developer cannot build a second building. So it was decided by the municipal council, like once they modify like the zoning bylaw, right? Secondly, is it reasonable like the developer and so thank you, Mr. O'Brien. So any more question? Is Mr. Gana here? Would you like to talk?
Veux-tu que je paye? Ah, ok.
Tout de suite, toutes les conditions que vous avez mis en place, ça prend du temps.
It takes some time for all these conditions. We've already applied for the permit, the traffic study. Well, traffic study can take 3 or 4 weeks to do. Also, drainage plan is halfway done. I should have it in a couple of weeks. So yes, the conditions that the traffic study will impose, sure, we have no choice. They're the ones who make the decision. If there's a traffic light that has to be put in, well, or anything else, then yeah, we have to comply with that. There's a couple of things, but we don't have all the answers just yet. Thank you. Any members of the committee who have any questions for our speaker? Thank you.
Okay, so before opening up the floor to everybody, like I mentioned before, the meeting ends at 7 either way. So I'd like to let's make sure it's fair for everybody. I'd like to restrict it 5 minutes each. As well, like we've mentioned here a few times, this committee here cannot prevent the 2 buildings from being built. All we can do is add conditions for that being built. So that would be very useful if you can propose new conditions that we can add to this. So that would be very useful for us that we can consider. Also, there's no need to talk to us about the legitimacy of this committee, because we can't resolve this today. I would propose you to talk to City Council if that's what you want to talk about. And I think that's pretty much it. Ok, est-ce que quelqu'un aimerait que je répète en français ou ça va?
Anyone want me to repeat that in French or no?
Okay, so who would
Donc,
like to take the microphone first? Again, please state your name before you start. Thanks.
Can I sit here or?
I don't want
prefer to stand?
stay.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name's Christina Metcalf. I live at 258 Cornwall. I will be I'll try very hard to respect your time limit here. I'm here again to ask questions and present suggestions based on my own observations and research as it relates to this project. I'm hoping to evoke some discussion among this group, although it's great to see that there was some discussion already, and to encourage some informed decision making, and additionally to provide some suggestions. I start again quoting the municipal plan that in order to meet the community's needs and expectations, the town of Shediac wants to equip itself with the tools that will allow it to meet the developer's needs without compromising our citizens' quality of life. My concerns continue to be related to the health, safety, and well-being of our neighborhood, the potential impacts this project could have on the environment, and the fact that some of this project doesn't align with some key parts of the Shediac municipal plan. The first issue is safety. As many of you should know, that Cornwall is a dead-end road. It's a public roadway without a secondary access. Moreover, this proposed project also only has one access road, one way in, one way out. The more people you add to this type of roadway with large-scale development, obviously the need for services are going to increase, emergency. As an example, if Cornwall Road is blocked off due to a fire, and I go into cardiac arrest, the road shut down before my house, what's the plan? Does that concern any of you? Should that be addressed before 2 buildings are to be approved? Furthermore, if there's a fire in phase 2, completely blocking off access to phase 1, and again, someone goes into cardiac arrest, a labor, what's the plan? Is that a concern with the size of these buildings and being able to access residents that you're approving people to live in safely? Is it safe? Are there codes or safety regulations in place? What does the National Protection or the National Fire Protection Agency say? Other cities close by have regulations in place that require secondary access roads for a certain length of a road or a certain amount of residential units on a road that would be a dead end. What's the fire chief have to say? To my understanding, he hasn't had much input in this other than the turnaround access in the driveway. This is a real issue that we have now on Cornwall Road, but the more development that you approve and the more large-scale development, the more prominent this becomes an issue, more of a real issue this becomes. So perhaps there needs to be more information, like one of the members had said, before you can make an informed decision. When you're presented with more information, a max unit density per building could be set. This would allow for development to continue. It would allow for smaller buildings that we have been requesting. It would reduce safety concerns, and it would allow for phase one, ideally, to come off of that buffer zone and from the environment standpoint. And contrary to the article in the Times and transcripts, it's never too late to change a plan, especially if you're going smaller. It's also never too late to do the right thing. In terms of traffic, it's my understanding that a traffic study was done in 2022 by the town. This is not related to this project. The traffic study was done at the intersection of Cornwall Road and Hannington. That information was supposed to be presented to town council last Monday, but it was removed from the agenda for whatever reason. If that traffic study were to come back indicating that there's a major issue at that intersection, can you responsibly approve such large buildings when there's already an issue at the intersection? Cornwall Road is a dead-end road. That intersection is the start and end of our street. This is a huge concern. Does this group feel as though that there's information from this study that might be relevant in this decision-making process? Should it be a condition added that we see that, and not that you're determining whether the engineer is right or wrong, you're taking the engineer's opinion, yes, there's something wrong with this, and then you can make an informed decision. It seems backwards. In terms of environment, a WAWA has not been obtained yet. We don't know what they can do within the buffer. And I also argue that this is a valid part of the decision-making process. A permit is required for construction machinery and landscaping within that buffer. So, if you don't know if they can go into that, should you be allowing a building that close to a buffer? You can't go into that buffer without a permit. You don't know if the permit's approved or not. So probably shouldn't be allowing something to be that close unless you know for sure.
Excuse me, there's about 30 seconds left.
Okay.
So do you have clear recommendations of conditions that we should add to this?
Sure. Does someone else want to take my spot? Okay. I mean, people can finish for me, or I can keep going.
No, others should have their chance to speak as well.
Okay.
But do you have any recommendations?
Yes, I do have some recommendations. My main points are to either restrict density on these two buildings. If you cannot just refuse the approve two buildings at a lower density, this will meet the needs, like I had said, of the residents that are looking for. This is not maintaining the integrity of the residential area. It says it in the municipal plan. It says it on Phil's staff report that this project, it supports the reasoning for this project. It maintains the integrity of the residential community. It does not. And I would like to know who here is responsible for interpreting whether our integrity is being maintained, whether our safety is being considered. Who determines that?
Okay.
That's
okay. Sorry, time's up. Just sorry, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. Just can you ask her to come back, please? Just have one question for her. And members might have questions for you too.
Oh, okay.
I just have one question. So you're mentioning lower density, but do you actually have a recommendation of what that is, right? Because it has to be quantifiable.
Okay, well, and it goes back to my point. How can you? If the fire chief or safety regulations say that really you should only have 40 people on this lot,
okay,
then that's the answer.
So you recommend based on the fire chiefs, for example?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Oui, est-ce que les membres ont des questions pour madame? Okay, thank you.
Can I ask another question?
Do you want to modify your recommendation?
No, I don't want to modify my recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, who's next? Want to go ahead? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, for allowing us to address you tonight by way of objection. I should have indicated this to you at the last meeting, so you have some appreciation of who I am, and I don't mean that in an egotistical way. I'm a paid-up member of the Law Society of New Brunswick. I retired from private practice in 2008. I still maintain retired status with the society. In addition, in my working career, I spent 37 years with the City of Moncton, many of which were involved in urban planning issues. I co-wrote 5 municipal plans, so I do have an appreciation of the concepts that we are talking about. I have heard, and through all of this, and I'm not going to use the word controversial, you've been civil to us and we've endeavored to be civil with you. I acknowledge that third parties, perhaps even members of this PRAC, may feel our collective compilation of grounds of objection is nothing more than the acronym NIMBY, not in my backyard. No pun intended, nothing could be further from the truth. We recognize the permitted uses under an R3 designation. If we were acolytes at the altar of NIMBY, would we have come out against the apartment complex at Oaks and Cornwall? We didn't. Moreover, the new complex, the quite attractive one, on the corner of Rue Principale and Chemin Cornwall, is actually complementary to our neighborhood. It's added to our neighborhood, and the density is quite reasonable. So I want those who may think that we have a NIMBY attitude to tell me why we didn't raise hell and fury in those two projects. We are objecting on, or I am at least, on the basis of scale, environment, and many pieces of information that I believe, and I understand the process in the Community Planning Act, but everything can be looked at from the concept of an exception without destroying the rights of the developer. Now, I'll get into the more formal part, and pardon me if I have to read quite rapidly. I still maintain, although Mr. Boudreau and I have a friendly disagreement, I don't believe that you can grant the variance in the second building, because as was clearly indicated in the planning document that was submitted to you for our first meeting, it clearly indicated that the second building was going to be market driven. And I certainly understand that from the perspective of the developer. So the second building, by the very acknowledgement of the planner, is presently a myth. We don't know if it's ever going to exist. And my legal argument is, how can you grant a variance on a building that may never become a reality? You can't. And if you do it, you're exceeding your jurisdiction. I believe, and I don't mean this in a cruel way, I believe that we weren't given due process at the last meeting. Almost 2.5 hours, you heard 9 representations. And I believe that the arguments that were advanced in various ways and said in various ways were very cogent and in some cases perhaps debatable, but they were valid. In less than 2 minutes, before that, not one question was asked. And under your bylaw, you can ask questions. Your powers are wide. Not one question was asked, and within 2 minutes, you made your decision. Simply because you held a meeting to hear objectors is not due process. And I challenge anybody to suggest that it is.
1 minute left, sir.
I submit this PRAC may well have real or apprehended bias toward approving this project. That's not conflict of interest. It's a legal concept that Mr. Bell is well aware of. It's been stated and stated and stated, and I haven't heard any acknowledgement either from Mr. Boudreau or anybody else. Are there violations of the municipal plan for this development to take place? I want an answer to that question. And is there going to be amendments to the municipal plan after the fact? If it's after the fact, that's improper procedure. And for my own knowledge, Jeff, what would be the name of this agreement? It's not a conditional zoning agreement. Is it contractual?
Sorry, so before answer any questions, so time's up. Do you have any recommendations on new conditions to add?
Yes, I have a recommendation that you defer any final decision on this until all of the things that Mr. Boudreau quite properly has indicated will be necessary. His timing is at the time of the development and building permit. I suggest that requisite information has to be here before you make a recommendation. Thank you very much.
You want to respond, Mr. Boudreau?
Yeah, I can touch on a couple of things that that you brought up there. So Oaks and Cornwall was rezoned in 2012. So that other building that's already existing, and the other one closer to Main Street was built as of right. There was no variance, so there was no public notice. In that case, there was no opportunity to object.
Yep.
The question of being market driven, every project is always market driven. The requirement to obtain variances from zoning provisions before obtaining any building permit is always the case. Every variance is approved on a project which may or may not proceed. That's always the case. And then finally, this is a conditional use, which is one of the options that a zoning bylaw may create particular uses in particular zones that are permitted yet subject to terms and conditions as imposed by the committee.
So this would be entitled on a conditional use agreement? Because the
Conditional use application.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
Monsieur Boudreau, d'autres questions des membres du comité? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
So I just want to address something that you mentioned about the meeting lasted 2.5 hours and things went real quick on our end. So what members of the public don't necessarily know is that we receive a package about a week before the meeting. We're expected to review the package, go through it. If we have questions, we call the staff at the commission. And like I did that today, I spoke to staff during the day. So sometimes when we come here, we have a lot of the answers to questions that we had that we just to try to make the meeting go faster. Don't interpret that as we're not taking our job seriously.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm not suggesting that, sir, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
through you to the member. I just found it unusual that over close to 2.5 hours, particularly Christine, who was absolutely excellent. You didn't pose one question. And it made us feel, and me in particular, that I was talking out of my ass, for lack of a better word. I felt I wasn't being
But
taken
the
seriously.
fact that we tabled one of the variances
Yes.
is a sign that we listened, right?
And I believe that was my argument on the myth of a second building.
Anyways, I just wanted to
Yep.
say that. So,
I'm not questioning the integrity of the PRAC committee. I'm not doing that at all.
and you can question it. It's okay.
No,
I
I'm
just
not.
want you to know that members, I can't speak for the others, but I know that I put a lot of effort into it and I know some as well do. And I'm sure everyone does it. Like we're expected. I've been here since day one, the PRAC's been set up.
Right.
And and a lot of the decisions are based on history of decisions we made in the past. So we're trying to be fair to the application of the variances. So that's really what it is.
And I think for us, the fact that the municipal plan was amended in 2012 that accommodated these rezonings is probably at the root of where we're coming from. We're not questioning the developer's right to build, not at all. And I just want to get it on the record, Mr. Chairman. I fully appreciate Mr. Boudreau's effort to extrapolate out in greater detail what he did tonight. That was not the case previously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Monsieur Boudreau?
I forgot to mention as well on the question of amendments following this variance, there's no amendments to the municipal plan being proposed. These are variances to the zoning provisions, not the municipal plan. The municipal plan policies are there to direct council when they are studying rezoning applications and whether those rezonings fit within the municipal plan. So in this case, there won't be any municipal policy amendments as a result of this application.
Okay. Monsieur Dupuis, si je m'entends bien.
Good evening, members of the Shediac Planning Review and Adjustment Committee. Paul Poirier, Chairperson. Kim Murphy, Member. Julien Boudreau, Member. Andrew Bell, Member. Mike O'Brien, Member. Paul Desprez, Member. I think it's very clear, over, these past few weeks that, this proposal is not sitting well with the community. The community needs to be heard and needs to weigh in on the decisions. This particular proposal for this development, put it in another property, another development area. There's no questions. There's no need for variances. This particular project, how it is presented, 2 buildings, 75 units on that particular lot, needed a slew of variances to make this lot what it's not. That's why we're here. If there was no variance request, we wouldn't be here, just like the other 2 buildings up the street. They followed the municipal plan. They were respectful to the plan. They were respectful to the community. This proposal here is highly disrespectful. It's disrespectful to the municipal plan and the town of Shediac that built it. It's disrespectful to the citizens of Cornwall Point, compromising their security and their enjoyment of life in that sleepy borough that it's been forever. It's disrespectful by doubling the population overnight, on this narrow stretch of road. I'd love to see a show of hands of who has driven down Cornwall Point in the last 2 months. Can I ask that question? No? I'll take that as probably not, that they haven't driven for the most part. Some have expressed that they have. This particular project is disrespectful to the environment. There is no way that they can not compromise the space and the area that is sensitive to the ecosystem. No way. You cannot build 1.5 meters from the buffer zone and not encroach on that buffer zone. It's impossible. This plan here is disrespectful to the Greater Shediac Sewerage Commission, because it's impossible for them to supply this project. It's requiring an upgrade. So it's forcing the hand of the Greater Shediac Sewerage Commission. Well, who's going to pay for that? I'll tell you who's going to pay for that. Everybody in this room and everybody around this table. You're going to pay for that. We're going to pay for that. The developer's not going to pay for that. It's going to pass to the Shediac Sewage Commission. They're going to say, yeah, sure, no problem. We'll just add everybody's bill. That's how it's going to be paid. And this project is disrespectful to you as a committee, because It's making you believe that this type of project is okay. It's not okay. It's not okay on this type of project. Put it in another location, it's okay. When you took this oath to sit on this table to make decisions, you wanted to make a difference. You wanted to make a difference. Well, here is your chance, right here, right now. Paul, you can make a difference tonight. You need to speak up.
Monsieur, si vous pointez pas du doigt à personne, s'il vous plaît.
Sorry. So, Mike Bujo, you're a member. You need to speak up. You need to make a difference. Mr. Bell, you've already spoken. You're making a difference. Julien Boudreau, you're the deputy fire chief. You need to speak up. You need to make a difference. And Kim Murphy, you're a member, and you need to make a difference as well.
Monsieur,
It's time to make a difference. Be a hero. Tonight, you can be a hero.
as-tu des recommandations, monsieur?
Yes, my recommendations is that you need to scale back this project. If you don't have the right information, you have to table it for further discussion, for further information. I respectfully disagree with Jeff Boudreau's definition that this project is already pre-approved for 2 buildings. I would like to get a legal opinion from the town of Shediac or whoever that legal opinion would come from that there is not an option of saying no to that second building. That is your interpretation, because I feel that the interpretation, when I'm reading it, that you do have the opportunity to say no for that second building. So another recommendation would be to not approve the second building and
Okay.
just stay with the 75. And then everybody goes home.
Merci, monsieur.
And the
Okay.
developer, gets to build his building and gets the cash out in 10 years with $15 million.
OK. Monsieur Jeff Boudreau, y a-tu des choses que tu veux ajouter?
The power of variance.
Anything
exists
else to add?
in the Community Planning Act. Everything that was done and presented is within the legal rights of this committee and the applicant to make. The public has an opportunity to voice their concerns, and the committee makes the decisions that they see fit for the project. I don't know what else to say. It's not my opinion. It is fact. It is black and white in the Community Planning Act that terms and conditions is a permitted use. And the committee, it speaks to may be prohibited by the advisory committee if compliance with those terms and conditions cannot be reasonably be expected. So they can impose conditions which are reasonable and which protect the development and the neighboring properties. And if those conditions can't be met, then the project can't go ahead. One example is having the upgrade to the sewer line. So one of the conditions that is imposed is that prior to a development permit occurring, the sewer line has to be upgraded. If it doesn't happen, the project cannot proceed. That is the power of the commission today.
Yeah, but that's going to be an easy do, because the Greater Shediac Sewerage Commission is just going to pass that.
Well, that's
that
your
off.
opinion, and I don't agree with you, but that'll be up to them to defend those decisions.
Well,
OK.
It's not really what we're discussing today.
Yeah. but
D'accord. Excuse me. We'll
But I-
do this properly.
If someone disagrees with what is reasonable, the option is to bring the decision to the planning appeal board.
well, that's a highly possibility. and
OK. Mais
that's
c'est correct,
in the
monsieur. Vous avez
plan.
le droit de faire ça.
But I'd really like to see that legal opinion that you do not have the option of not approving the second building.
OK. Attends, est-ce que les membres du conseil ont des questions pour monsieur? Ça va? OK. Merci, monsieur. On va essayer de donner le tour à d'autres personnes.
Le délai.
Il reste 15 minutes à la réunion. Est-ce que...
Not my call. So, on a deux lettres qui avaient été soumises que, je sais pas, is Glenn Ward here?
There
Did
were
you
a
want-
couple of letters that were submitted.
I'll just read it for the record. I, Glenn Ward, am property owner of both 122 and 110 Tamarack Lane in the Cornwall Point area of Shediac. I have concerns about the proposed development on the Creek of Cornwall Road. This proposal of 2 5-story, 75-unit buildings proposed by Galant Apartments, Inc., located on Cornwall Road, does not at all follow within the peaceful, unique area of Shediac nor the Beaubassins outline of their mandate to protect such areas of the town. I believe the town is in its desire to grow quickly, often forgets the need to consider infrastructure limitations that will cause issues for the existing neighbors and their enjoyment of their property. The height of this project, the amount of people that will live in these units, and the instant impact on the waterfront use, waterfowl, and traffic on a small tributary concern me greatly. Moreover, the traffic that will be caused at Cornwall and Maine is already a concern. It will be overwhelmed by an increase in population of over 300 to 400 people. I also believe that the current pumping station will not be able to handle this load. This is 1- and 2-story neighborhoods. There's no reason that we should be considering above 3-level buildings in this area. I also see a proposal for underground parking. How could this possibly be approved for a flood-prone zone that is environmentally sensitive? I urge the committee to revisit these variance approvals and look at being consistent with the development in the small seaside tourist town. There's plenty of land outside existing neighborhoods that you could create corridor of large capacity buildings without allowing them to be new builds in the middle of low-rise residential areas. The development behind the Old Baptist Church on Hannington is a good example of a proper area for new multi-residential developments. Thanks. Thank you for presenting my concerns to the committee. Kind regards, Glenn Ward. And the only thing I would point on that is the sea level
La seule
rise.
chose que j'ajouterais aussi, là, c'est que le stationnement est permis dans une zone d'élévation du niveau de la mer. Et Jacques Boudreau aussi avait envoyé une lettre. Ah, I think he's off mic. The interpreter cannot hear.
Okay, so 15 minutes left. Is there anybody else that wants to speak on the microphone? Monsieur?
Based up, one thing I did. sorry,
Great. We need your name first.
I did have
Sorry, sir.
a letter that.
Your name?
Sir,
Your name?
sir.
Sorry. Oh,
Ken McIntyre, 77 Evergreen Drive, Shediac, obviously.
yeah. Sorry, Ken.
Anyway, I did write a letter to Phil and Jeff, and I did receive replies, which I appreciated. But one of the questions I had was relating to the 120 unit maximum that's already existing for the sewage commission. And I have a question, what is the cost? Does anybody know what the cost would be to upgrade this particular project? And so far, nobody's given me an answer to that, including a member of the sewage commission. But the second interesting point, I guess, in the reply from Jeff was that the developer would be the one responsible for the upgrade. And so I have a question through you to the developer. Is he going to take on this responsibility? Not knowing the cost, perhaps?
Again, if I may.
May.
The second building is subject to approval from the sewer commission. So to upgrade that system, it is the responsibility of the developer. The developer can seek partners to help finance the project however he chooses, whether it's through the Greater Shediac Sewer Commission, provincial financing,
Is he prepared to
municipal
do that
monies.
now? Is he prepared to say he'll do that?
At the end of the day, right now, it is 100% his responsibility. This is his project.
Is he prepared to take on that responsibility of upgrading the sewage system?
He made the application.
Because if he's not going to do that, we don't need a second building. We don't need that mythical second building. One building could be placed more central on the property. And it would allay some of the concerns of the community in terms of the environment, that sort of stuff. I think. I really think I appreciate what Mr. Bell had said. I really think you have to take a second look at some of the variants you've already granted. That one about the setback, it may never be used. You don't need it. The height one, you don't need that. You could have 2 buildings of 40 if he wants 2 buildings. There's all kinds of ways that getting around this that'll be more acceptable to the community and more environmentally friendly. I think you really have to step up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Please don't forget to tell us your name before you start.
Yes, my name is Lise Robichaud. I live at 86 Cornwall. The question I have is for Jeff Brujo. You said that you sent your letter on January 30th. I never received that letter. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
The mail out is sent.
My name is John Oak. I live next.
No, you have to come to the microphone, please.
I live on Oak Street. I got no letters, no phone calls, no nothing. I just hear about these meetings from an odd person sends me a text. But you guys don't tell me nothing. I don't hear nothing. I just hear it from an odd text. Oh, there's a meeting. Oh, hurry up, wash up, get to the meeting. And you guys say you can't stop a building. You can stop me from building. You can stop other people from building.
There will be no building until he meets all of the conditions which have been imposed. And as the mail out, it was sent on February 10th. I'm not sure why it never reached you. We'll have to look into that. That was for the first. It was sent 2 weeks prior. I did confirm that it was mailed out, but yeah, no, I'm not sure. I'm glad you made it to the meeting. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Veronica LeBlanc. I live at 112 Cornwall. I never received it either.
Thank you.
Neither did I receive it for the first meeting or even the notice that was supposed to be within 60 meters of the project. I never received that. One thing I do want to say, it's a little bit, there about 5 years ago, we had a wire come down where it used to be called Gretzky's Inn, right in the corner. There was one of the electrical wires that fell down there. There was a bunch of us cars. We were stuck. We called 911 because I actually called because I didn't know if it was a live wire. Don't know anything about that kind of stuff. But we were stuck there for quite a while, waiting for fire trucks to come, waiting for us to be clear to get out of there. And that's before the other two buildings were built, or the least the one right on the corner was built up. So that was happening then. Add 300 people more. How much more danger are we going to be in?
Yep.
Anyone else? Personne?
Marcel Cormier, 190 chemin Cornwall. I just have a question. We didn't discuss it at our group meeting on Saturday. So the sewer commission says that there's capacity for 120 units. Should the developer decide to build 2 times 60 and reach the max, and then the sewer system is at capacity, and I want to build an in-law suite in my house, but the system's at capacity, so I would be denied up until the sewer commission would upgrade the system. There's a few other vacant lots down our street that, have yet to build. Let's say I know of someone who's holding on to a couple lots for their kids when they decide to move back to Shediac. Should they want to build? If the system is at capacity, their building permit could be denied up until the sewer commission would upgrade the station. I'm totally green on this subject. So I just want to put that out there if anybody has, information to provide.
Yeah.
So again, to summarize, if the project caps the capacity of the system, what happens to the rest of us who would want to develop down the street?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's a very good point. Not to speak on behalf of the sewer commission. My understanding is they don't do head counts of people that live in a house. And so adding an additional unit to a house would not be as critical an impact on their system. That's my understanding. At the end of the day, every building permit application is sent to the sewer commission for their comments and approval. So it would be up to them to decide whether or not that particular project can be accommodated in the existing system. So we've addressed this in the past in another area where the same thing happened, that multi-units were over capacity in the sewer system until there were upgrades to the system. And they ended up doing the upgrades to the system, but.
Okay. Merci, Monsieur Boudreau. Anyone else?
Thanks, Ms. Boudreau.
Good. Okay. Prochaine étape.
Next step. In French. Any members of the committee who have any question or any suggestions? Mr. Bell.
In addition to the conditions that are already set out by the commission, I'm thinking of adding 3 conditions. One would be on restricting the density to limit the number of units on the property. So by doing that, we kind of circumvent the idea of the second building for the time being. Doesn't mean he couldn't come back to us once all the information is available. So I wanted your comments on that, Jeff, if that's possible. We're not restricting to having two buildings. We're just restricting the number of units total. So if he decides to do one building with the total units, and he can always come back to us later when there's more information available. And I'm thinking we'll restrict it to 75 units in total. So that's my first proposal for condition one.
On va attendre juste proposer un à la fois si vous voulez, on peut vérifier avec M. Boudreau,
Yeah, I can do that.
on peut le faire.
So I propose that we restrict the density to 75 units in total for the
That's
project.
your first condition.
Yeah, the
M. Boudreau, ça va
applicant,
pas?
the applicant can always come back and ask to amend the conditions in the
Absolutely.
future. Yeah, he could do that.
Ok, so on peut aller de l'avant avec celui-là.
Vous pouvez, oui. C'est
Yes, you can go ahead.
Il n'y a pas mention d'une limite de densité
So
dans
there's no a mention of entities or units in the municipal plan. So that's what we propose as a condition right there from the start. But it's up to your discretion because it's the first time we have a file like this. Mr. Bell, second.
Un à la fois, juste m'assurer que c'est correct.
Okay.
So le premier, c'est que tu proposes 75 milliers.
So the first one would be 75 units max.
Also restrict the use in the 30-meter buffer zone that's provided for on the plan, regardless of the Wawa permit comes out, that he would respect that 30 meters with the exception of the roadway coming in, because I think the roadway is going to impede on the 30 meters. So, for example, he would not be able to in any way, shape, or form enter on the 30 meters or change anything or do anything to that 30 meters, regardless of what environment comes back and whatever the permit says, because under the Wawa permit, he can apply to go up to 15 meters. So we would restrict it at the 30 meter.
So we already have that condition that no buildings are permitted within the 30 meters.
Not just the buildings. I'm thinking restricting any use of that 30 meter. Could include snow, depositing snow on that for the winter months. In other words, he wouldn't be able to go there whatsoever. Well, that's clear enough.
So there's going to be a requirement that the access crosses the Wawa buffer.
With the exception of the access.
Okay, so no use other than the access
Correct.
to the land be permitted. I
Within
think
the 30 meter
there's-
buffer zone.
Within the 30 meters. Okay.
Okay.
Ça va, M. Boudreau?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good. Okay.
And the third condition would be to increase the setback on the north side of the second building from the boundary line, the south boundary line. Currently, it's showing at 3 meters. On the plan, it's showing at 3 meters on the proposed plan. We would increase that to 7.5 meters.
On the north for building 2.
When you look at the plan, if you look at the plan, building number 2, the proposal site location is 3 meters from the southern boundary line of the neighbor. Would increase that setback to 7.5 meters.
Okay.
Those are the 3 suggestions or proposals that I make.
Merci, M. Bell. Ça va, hein, M. Boudreau?
Thank you. So with the committee, I just want to make sure that Mr. Bell is proposing to add 3 additional conditions. We had 7. It would be a modification to the Wawa just to indicate not only like the building, but any use other than access like to condition number 7, and then 2 additional conditions. So there would be 9 conditions. 1 would be a modification. So you're okay? So it's moved by Mr. Bell. Do I have a seconder? Questions on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Against nay? Carried. Will not be able like to process the two files because the mayor is here and said that we have to conclude the meeting. We'll have to find another time like for the two files, so we'll be working with the commission. Or how does it work with you, Mr. Boudreau? The two remaining files? Yeah. Either it will be delayed to the next meeting or we'll do like a special meeting. We'll have to discuss with the administration and municipalities because there are some costs associated with it. It's not the applicant's fault. Thank you, Mr. Boudreau. So the next meeting will be on March 13th at 5:30. If there's no like special meeting, I would need someone to move the adjournment of the meeting. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Allô, 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 allô. Allô, allô, allô. Allô, allô, allô. Ok. Allô, allô. Allô.
Ça fonctionne maintenant?
It works now. So we'll try again. So I will continue to speak in French. So to see if it works in English. So can you hear me in English?
Yeah, check if it's working, Harry.
English, 1, 2,
Can
1,
you
2.
can you hear
1,
me
2.
in English?
Once upon a
time.
Est-ce que ça fonctionne?
So does it
How,
work?
are you hearing the English? Yeah,
Is it working in English?
English
Can you
channel,
hear
1,
the
2, 1, 2,
interpreter?
1, 2, 1, 2.
So
I'm
we'll
going to keep
continue to
talking.
talk.
Je vais vous nommer Sylvie.
Let
So
me
we'll meet
see. We have
Sylvie,
Sylvie here,
Janice,
Patricia,
Patricia, the executive
Executive Director over
director on
here.
my right.
Ils essayent de corriger là.
So they're trying to correct like
They're
the
trying to
situation.
rectify the situation.
So can you
Vous pouvez l'entendre?
can
Can
you
you
hear
hear
me?
the two interpreters?
Okay.
So can they hear me?
You had a signal. Anyway.
Yeah, so can you hear me? My mic is working, but just want to make sure. Maybe you need like another
Connie,
headset.
maybe you have another one for Harry.
So you're sitting between two nice ladies. So is it working?
Let's see now. The two of you sitting together. Can you hear me now?
You said you were sitting between two nice ladies.
Check 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. You may hear two interpreters at once.
So you
Let's
may
keep
talk
going
a little bit just to make sure,
to
like
see.
you can hear the translation. So I will
Now let's
just
reduce the volume in the room.
maybe reduce the volume. I know, like they told us
there
there
was a
were
bit of a
supposed to be like
delay.
delays in the system.
Est-ce que c'est mieux?
So is it better now?
Any better now?
Marie saying no.
Marie says no.
Harry
Harry
saying no.
says
So
no.
surprise him.
Il y a juste un micro d'allumé, rien.
Only
only
one
one
mic
microphone
is. All the rest is closed. Okay.
Donc, rien, pas bon, Murray?
Is it
Not
better
good,
now?
Marie?
Est-ce qu'il y a du son?
So
Are you
can
getting
you
any
hear
sound?
Can you hear anything?
Are you getting anything? Hearing
So
nothing?
they don't hear any because okay. So can you hear me or no sound at all? Okay.
Well, the technicien ici depuis ton
Now the technician has.
You're hearing it through the.
Can you
So-
hear?
Okay. So that
You can hear
okay,
it.
so can you hear me? Because I know my mic is working. Like
on ne sait pas si ça fonctionne.
so we're not sure
We
if it
don't
works
know
or
if it's
not
working
in
in
the
the
room.
room.
Jonathan, c'est que t'entends.
Jonathan, if you are hearing anything
Jonathan,
on YouTube, it works.
La réunion auparavant.
is it working?
So the previous meeting,
previous
like
meeting
it was
worked, right?
working. Okay, so yeah, the joy of technology. When it works,
always like
it's great.
technology when it
when
works.
it doesn't work,
then
it's
we get-
not so great.
Upset when it doesn't.
Entends-tu quelque chose, Jonathan?
Can you hear anything,
Jonathan,
Jonathan?
can you hear anything?
Entends-tu des mots?
Can you hear
You
some
hear
words
words.
or Jonathan?
Tu les entends?
So you
You
can
can
hear
hear
me
them?
Faut juste que t'entends ma voix.
because you
All
just
you have
need
to
to
do is
hear
hear
my
my
voice.
voice.
Jonathan, est-ce que tu
Jonathan, can you hear me, Jonathan?
How about it, Jonathan? Can you hear me?
Est-ce que tu m'entends?
Can you
Can
hear
you
me?
hear me, Jonathan? They're doing some testing. It's a brand new system, so that's why, like a little bit of tech problems.
Have this one meeting en anglais? Is there
Can you hear me now?
We have to
for,
Oh, they could do that. Most people would probably understand that the situation, and most of them can probably speak French, English and French. But if they choose to speak in French, that's okay. We'll,
Yeah.
at least we'll be able to proceed. That's just a suggestion. I don't want to
Yeah.
impose anything on anybody.
I can do what's called in French, it's la traduction consécutive. I don't know if it's consecutive translation is the literal translation, but someone expresses themselves in one language, I will summarize in the other one. Si quelqu'un s'exprime dans une langue, je vais faire un sommaire de qu'est-ce qu'ils ont
see
dit.
if someone express in one language, so you can hear me, I will be talking a lot. C'est, it's for people also, the council members only. Does it work better now? For the Anglophone counselors, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? For the two Anglophone counselors, can you hear the translator?
Yeah.
Can you? So can you hear me? So can you? So maybe it's the batteries too of the so Marie's saying, okay, so Harry, can you hear me? Maybe the batteries could be dead. Okay. Yeah, Jonathan is gonna fix it. It could be the battery also that is weak, like. So we will do our best. Yes. Because I will be switching from one language to the other, but that's part of your life for this evening. I think everything. So good evening. I will try like to be brief as much as possible.
I'm speaking, quand je parle. Monsieur le greffier, je constate que nous avons le quorum. We do have quorum this evening.
Mr. Griffey, Mr. Clerk, we do have the quorum. Everyone is here. Declaration of conflict of interest. Any council members who would like to declare conflicts of interest?
Avec les choses à l'agenda, à l'ordre du jour. Parfait.
Perfect.
Il n'y a aucun conflit.
So there's none. Conflict. Adoption of the agenda, number 4. You have the agenda in front of you. If you want to talk, you just press like your button. See. So it works? No, yes.
Turn it around. On va voir si ça fonctionne.
We'll see if it works. So is it working? Is it better? Harry needs an antenna or something like with the.
Yeah, ça fonctionne.
So it works? Okay. So so can you hear me, Harry? So it has to point on this direction. So just opposite as what we did previously when we were here.
The lovely system functioned when we were here before. Ça me disait l'ordre que
it was giving me the order like where people the button.
C'était comme se mettre en ligne.
Yeah.
Like,
it was like getting in line.
This one does not do that. Celui-ci m'indique pas qui a
This
pesé.
one does not tell me who pressed first. So I will try like to look at my screen very often so to know like so we.
But I might get you out of turn to make sure je vais vous manquer votre tour, mais on vous
we'll tell you, like, we don't. Councillor Sylvie Colette Boudreau, Councillor Sylvie, thank you. So I propose like the agenda as presented. Moved by Sylvie Colette Boudreau, as presented. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Germaine, questions on the motion? I have Councillor Emile and Councillor Emile. Maybe it's not the right time. I just wanted to add on the agenda of this evening. I will be discussing also like the water access from Riverside Drive. I don't know exactly where on the agenda it is. It would be on section 11. No, not section. Question. I prepare a text and I will read it. If it's not a motion, like it would be like a number 13, like inquirers by members of council. Councillor Patricia. You wanted to add the same, okay? Councillor Harry.
Was that just approved?
Not yet. We're
Oh.
at a question on the agenda.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I was just going to, I'll wait to see what amendments might be made to the agenda.
Okay. What was proposed was to add, well, Councillor Sylvie proposed to adopt the agenda, it was seconded by Councillor Germaine. Councillor Emile asked if he could make a comment on the access to the water project anyway. So that was a question. So that's going to be under the questions at item number 13. Essentially, Councillor Patricia had the same question, so easy enough. They can ask a question at that time. Anything else?
No,
Good.
that would be it. Thank you.
Councillor Renaud, question.
Councillor Roland. Mr. Mayor, direct me where should.
Where should I do this? I'd like to talk about the Greater Shediac Sewerage Commission. We talked about that a few weeks ago. I'd like to propose something that give direction to staff. So I don't know where I should be doing this.
That would be under new business, introduction aux affaires nouvelles, so 12.3 qu'on va ajouter.
Thank you.
Mission des où? Pour la conseillère Sylvie et la conseillère Germaine, c'est une modification favorable.
So this is a friendly amendment?
Amendment. Conseillère Sylvie?
Parce qu'on est.
Sylvie? There are some new people here, so I'll vote for the amendment. But we shouldn't play with the agenda. We should bring that to a later meeting because we're a little bit blindsided here. I don't think we should start playing with the agenda. Otherwise, I will talk to you about something that the Moran Code says. A member can ask for a notice of motion for a new item that is a proposal.
Motion.
So if you call for a notice of motion, it can say anybody, essentially for to table it to the next meeting. So there will be a vote on the motion, but it can be discussed, or at least information can be presented about it.
C'est juste, ça évite d'être, comme tu dis de ton anglais, blindsided. ça évite ça. Je crois pas que c'est ça ton intention, là. But...
I don't think you're trying to blindside anybody, but this is something that would be available to the members of the council. We didn't intend to blindside anyone. Can you tell me what is the correct procedure so as not to frustrate people around the table? Should I have spoken to the clerk first? And then the clerk puts it on the agenda? When you want to add something to the agenda, if the agenda has already been drawn up because a council decided 8 years ago what we're going to discuss and what we're not going to discuss, how do I go about putting something on the agenda if I wasn't here 8 years ago? The easiest way to do that, if you wish, is you give a notice to do this to the clerk. You can also tell it during the council. I would like to propose that kind of a motion that gives people, the members of the council, the time to think about it. Is you following me? But I think I can't talk about that outside of the meeting. No, you bring it this evening and you say, and you bring it to this meeting and say, at the next meeting, I want to discuss it. That's a notice of motion. Thank you for allowing me to discuss this evening. I promise that I won't do it again, do this again. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for explaining this to me. Something I read recently, okay? So we have a motion to adopt the agenda. That was a friendly amendment. So it's part of the main motion to pass the agenda. All in favor, say yes. All opposed? No, sorry, all in favor still? All opposed? Nay? Okay, it is passed. Carried. Je ne veux pas. Okay, the minutes were available of the January 30th meeting. And do we have a motion to pass the minutes, to adopt the minutes? Yes, we have a motion.
Councillor Janis proposes to adopt the minutes as presented. Appuyé du maire suppléant Jean-Claude Bertin. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Jean-Claude Bertin. Questions? Sinon, tous en faveur, en diront oui.
All in favor? All opposed, say nay. Carried. Number 7, reading of correspondence. We have 5 items. This is a letter from someone who would like to change the name of the street Moineau to Claudie. It's a
Councillor Harry.
Mr. Mayor.
Harry?
I move that all items of correspondence be tabled to the next meeting of council, prior to which verbatim English versions of the correspondences will be made available to members of council.
Okay, so I have a motion on the table to table these items, the 5. Motion pour tabler les 5 correspondances, essentiellement, pour qu'ils soient traduites, so they may be translated and provided to council. Seconder for that motion. Est-ce que quelqu'un appuie? On CRCB Colette Boudreau. j'ai plusieurs items plusieurs lights qui blinkent là. Est-ce qu'il y a des membres du conseil qui veulent parler sur?
Is anyone who would like to speak to that motion? That is the motion to table. I would like. I also support tabling this to the next meeting. I would also go ask the administration to give us a recommendation to change the street name. Find out what are the issues with respect to that. So there'll have to be another motion about that. But currently, we're dealing with the motion to table or not to table. But I understand what you're driving at. Okay, Mr. Paul, this is about tabling only. I was going to talk about accepting the name change, but we're not discussing that yet. First, we're talking about whether we should table it because the 5 correspondence are all in French, 5 letters, and there's 2 counselors who don't understand French as well. And so he asked whether these documents can be translated before he has to vote on them. So that is the current motion that's on the table. So do we skip them basically? If we don't skip them, then we have to discuss them now. But we're talking about tabling. You following me? We can. You can do the translation. Do you want us to do this for all correspondence that we receive or only for this evening? Good question. So are we asking, is the motion to have every document translated, every letter that comes in French or in English? I understand. Okay, you want to discuss the motion to table? Can I deal with that after? Okay. All right, so only on the question of tabling or not tabling. With all due respect and for the whole table, I cannot accept that the people who wrote to us picked the language of their choice. I think that if you do this, then you have to make it, then we have to have all documents translated. We don't have the resources for that. I'm quite comfortable with summarizing the letters that we get from each citizen or group. So that our Anglophone colleagues can can vote on them. But translating all our correspondence on all documents, I think that would be burdensome. Tabling this because so I don't see the logic of that motion. I don't see why we could. There might be a reason to table, but I can't vote for this motion as stated. The idea is that all members of the council should be able to understand. That all of the members can be able to understand the correspondence. I've got 4 people who want to speak on tabling the motion. Harry. Comme c'est toi qui l'as initié.
Councillor McInerney.
Yes, Mayor, it's a difficult position to be in. I am not adversarial. I'm not. I don't like to be controversial, and when I receive the agenda and every piece of correspondence is en français, as a member of council who has an equal opportunity to understand, an equal opportunity to research prior to the meeting, an equal opportunity to contribute to the debate, and in fairness to my constituents, the majority of whom are English speaking, in Ward 2. And in fairness, I guess, in the spirit of the legal sense of true bilingualism, I think it is only obviously fair that once now you have a bilingual council, you have to honor, as we do the French language, we also have to respect the English language and the rights of the English constituents who deserve to be fully represented. And if you don't understand correspondence, the background, and you don't have the opportunity because you don't understand the language to ask the questions prior to a council meeting to fully prepare yourself, it's very, well, it's impossible. If those letters were in Greek tonight, all of you folks, my colleagues, would be in the same position that I'm in. So that's the fairness of it, and that's the logic behind it. And it's nothing, I'm not an aggressive person. I wouldn't have brought anything forward if I didn't feel that I'm caught in a position where I can't represent the people who elected to have me sit here on those matters, which I cannot understand. And to come to a council meeting, I fully appreciate, and my colleague next to me has offered to help, and he will from time to time. And I know that that not everything is going to be in English. I understand that. It's just the reports. It's just the stuff that I get prior to coming to a meeting, whether it's a staff report or something, or a consultant's report, or whatever. Then the answer is yes. That needs to be. We need to be equally treated in that respect. At the meeting, I'm going to have to accommodate. Obviously, this body conducts its business en français, and I will not attempt to change that. I thought as a courtesy tonight, you might have gone on anglais, but that's not going to happen. But in any event, eventually we'll work out the translation. We'll work out all the other stuff, and things will flow smoothly. And I don't see an issue. And eventually, the administration will provide routinely the documentation in a manner in which it should be provided. So I think this is just a temporary thing. My basic understanding of the items that are contained within the correspondence is that they are not time sensitive, and a grant this month versus a grant next month, or whatever the case might be, is not earth shattering. And so that I didn't think that I'd have to speak on too much, because as I say, I don't want to make a big issue. To me, it's just a simple, straightforward thing. And on behalf of my constituents, that's why I asked for it. Thank you.
Merci, merci, Conseiller McEnroy. Thank you. I had Janice, Patricia, Peter, and Murray.
Janice, Patricia, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we know, the administration, I don't think we're asking the administration to translate everything, but we should go maybe like to a, like maybe a translation company and translate our thing like until we do have the resources, like if we can have the resources internally. But I don't think it should fall like all on administration, because a lot of people missing in our team. But I would recommend like to find some money in the budget, like to translate the documents for the documents.
No.
So it doesn't work.
That we can engage in a third party to do the translation for documentation, whatnot. So that can be provided to council. So take the steps, measures, and budget that accordingly. Ensuite, Councillor Patricia.
Councillor Patricia, it was only concerning like the 5 items. Are there any that are more like urgent than others? So the others, it's like requests, like probably financial requests for this summer, or any of those items. Well, according to the administration, any that were, according to my interpretation, like nothing. There was one like its annual funding.
Son courage, and the other ones were on relié à des projets. Il y en a un qui c'est un projet qui
They were project related, so one project is already ongoing. So
a project that is actually underway. Il y avait juste vraiment le nom de la rue. Je sais pas
really like on the street name, so I don't know the street name. Is it time sensitive? Not that you know of. To our knowledge, there's nothing that is urgent.
Conseiller Peter, ensuite Conseiller Murray, ensuite Conseiller Mill.
Oui, je sais pas si c'est.
Councillor Peter, I don't know if it. to make an amendment, or if you can make a motion. No, you cannot make a motion, an amendment to a motion to table. Either we table it or we don't. So it concerns like the correspondence that we receive from individuals. We would need to have a policy, like once we have a correspondence, so the correspondence should be in French and English. So it would avoid like for the administration to translate everything. So so when the administration receive a request, either in French and English, it was simply maybe so to find, so it would be done in the two languages. You don't need a motion, really. It would be no, not really. And then it's not for tabling. Right now it's the subject to table this item. A point of order, Mr. Cormier? Maybe I'm not right. When a motion is made like to table, we do not even discuss it. We have no opinion. We say yes or no. And everybody has their opinion, but it's not time to discuss. Do we table or do we not table? But we do not spend like we do not go around the table like. I agree with you. So on the motion to table, I will ask the question. All those in favor to table the motion to a delay to a further meeting, aye. All in,
These 5 items till the next meeting. In favor, aye. Tous contre, non.
against, nay. One nay. Councillor Boudreau? Paul Boudreau, because we have two. Councillor Boudreau.
Anybody, all those against, nay. Motion est adopté, motion is carried.
Bon, la motion est motion carried. So these 5 letters or correspondence are being tabled. Number 8, standing committee and special, no report.
Special committees.
Est-ce qu'on a cette
Yo?
sur la traduction de tous les documents? C'est ça que je comprends.
So that's what I understand, translation for all the documents in the 2 official languages? It's something we could ask. You to have the discussion, so the administration will need to have some kind of a decision. And I don't know, like legally, if we can ask the citizen to communicate in the 2 languages. I'm not sure. I will have to check legally. I don't think the act allowed us. Could we do some research on it and maybe come back? But for now, we'll go with the translation of all the documents, at least for the, for the next meetings. Could we have a decision this evening? The administration would need like a decision, like there's a council member with their motion to table. They asked to bring it like with the councillor McRoy mentioned, like to have the documents translated so everyone understands. So we will discuss it like at a later date. So any other means or any suggestions? You can bring it to us. So no, like a standing and special committee report. Number 9, report from the town manager. No, you didn't have any this month. It's at the end of the month, sorry. Recommendation from the Regional Service Commission.
Ce soir, aux affaires non terminées.
Unfinished business, 11, we have 5. Sailing school. It was something brought by the administration. So we had a request from, you remember, like Rob Rogers, and I'll also discuss with Jerry O'Brien. And I understood Jerry and Mr. Rogers discuss. I'm trying to arrange a meeting with Jeremy and Rob next week at the latest. And I understood, like from Jerry, they already took a decision. They have 2 options on the table. So they have either like to have an operator like for the sailing school or liquidate all the assets. No, I was not able to open it. They got the document. Yeah, Mr. Jeremy sent it yesterday. So we will get back to you at the end of the month with how the progress of the file.
If I face that.
If it works. Yeah, okay, so it works, okay. Okay, perfect.
everybody's sake, I'll just summarize 11.1. The town manager spoke with both Marina, both Shediac Bay Yacht Club and the Pointe Duchesne Yacht Club. Clubs.
Yep.
And they will be meeting together to discuss the matter, and there'll be more information brought forward to council at a later date.
Yep.
Parfait. Numéro 2, trafic.
Number 2, 11.2, traffic on Beaubridge Street. It's a subject that was presented at the last meeting, so I don't know if the council would like to give us some kind of direction on this one. Councillor Sylvie. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, I just want to do a brief summary in English.
This was the item that was discussed. Then
The last meeting.
At the committee of the whole meeting. So staff was asking if there were any particular direction that council wished to provide. Conseillère Sylvie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So according to the report we have, so my suggestion would be to mandate the administration. So do we follow the report, the recommendation, to follow what our professionals are saying, not go against them, because after a while it's not worth nothing. Like because they suggested to us maybe to do like a couple of little additions, like Beaubridge and Casey, like with a crosswalk, especially like for the kids, and they were also mentioning a sidewalk. So I wasn't sure what was the option, like to be. I think maybe it would also be good. I don't know if we want to review, like, I would not study the report all again, like to see like what Englobe is a suggestion of, but I think it was the question where the crosswalk would be. It would be a one similar like at Pascal Poirier with the solar panels. So my suggestion or my proposal to the administration would be to ensure that we add something at least once there, because right away it would be, I think it would be enough, like it would, at least it would help like to calm maybe slow down the speeds, like they calm also the concern of the speed of the vehicle speeding in that on that street, because they were mentioning having two sidewalks on each side of the street to have maybe can I say like the administration, they're looking at the report, and then the administration come up with a recommendation to the council to take action, like in the sense to improve the safety. Absolutely. Clear enough?
Recommending that staff bring forward a recommendation that will enhance safety features at that location.
I think Councillor Patricia has something to add exactly to that.
À peu près ça.
Merci. Oui, je propose ce que tu viens de dire.
So I'm moving, but c'est Councillor Patricia. I agree with this, but the report is suggesting things. So what do we want the administration to do? So the report, like we had 2-3 things like we wanted to. As I said, I do not have it on me, and they had the cost estimate. But I remember like the report indicated like to satisfy the TAC standards, so that regulates like the speed, and they did not need to do any improvement. So because it's meeting the standards, like but if we wanted to do some improvement, we could do we could do a couple of things, but one was probably more expensive than the other one. If my memory serves me well, and I remember this, it's just like I would be ready to go forward and suggest that the administration look at the roundabout, I think they were calling it, like with the sidewalks on the two sides. According to me, I think we have to go forward, like to go with that. It would to get cost estimate for each of them, and I know last week it was suggested by that we could start like with the other one, and then we could change to the other one, switch to the other one after. But I would like to know like what are the costs, because one was short term and the other one long term. It's like the short term will add some extra costs when we have the long term one. So maybe we should look to have the long term one maybe first. So they would kind of complete each other, and maybe look if we have some money in the budget. So I would see instead of putting it into the hands of administration to come to a plan, short and long term, and to know if we have the funds and when we're taking those funds and how we will fund it, and because the cost for a sidewalk maybe could be taken in the budget for sidewalks. And Councillor Sylvie, so is it? Councillor Sylvie is saying yes. So I would have a mover and a second. So the motion. So we'll take a question. And Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Engage staff to review the report, come up with both a short and long-term improvements for safety in that particular area of the intersection of Casey and Beaubridge. So that is the motion. C'est ça la motion qu'on a sur le tapis. That's the motion.
This is the motion we have on the table. Question on the motion. So Paul, you had a question. Yes, Mr. Mayor. So I agree with what Sylvie is proposing. Like I was to see with the report we have last year. It's a solution very easy, like to paint a crosswalk according to them, like Beaubridge, like it's almost like a very busy street. They were always referring to Main Street, but I do not agree. Like when you have institution and businesses, I asked a question. I did not seem to have the answer, like what I see, like to paint like a sidewalk through a street. A crosswalk.
And they didn't seem to be,
Casey.
They didn't seem to be quite comfortable with that. So I'm not sure if you can follow up the staff with that recommendation to put citizens or children in danger with just painting a crosswalk across the street without going from one place to another, just to,
okay.
But I know it has to be done. Germaine,
Patricia.
A raison.
Okay, merci, conseiller.
Right. Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Bertin.
That was made last week, they were gonna make sidewalks on the other side of the road, partways going up so the people could walk around, and the crosswalk would meet the other sidewalk. Like I know on Casey, they're not gonna make a sidewalk. There's one on Beaubridge, which is important. They wanted to make another one on the other side of Beaubridge.
Okay.
That's my understanding. And if we wanted to get it done, my understanding was they could get it done this summer. If we would agree on that project. It was a small traffic circle with
the short-term one. Yes, that's what I recall. The long-term one wasn't going to get done this summer, I don't think. So, but Bob, je sais pas si tu avais plus de clarification.
Bob, do you have any more clarification on that?
Were presented. One was kind of a recommended short term. It was including adding sidewalks to the south side of Beaubridge on both sides of Casey, and adding a painted crosswalk, the RRFB illuminating light system, And the delineator, the flap that would flappable sign, I
Oh,
guess,
yeah,
that will
that's
indicate a
in-
crosswalk and
it's in the middle of the
and
road.
act to slow down traffic. That had a cost estimate of $85,000 and is something that could be implemented very quickly. Yeah, including the yeah.
The sidewalk on, so
Sidewalk is included in that estimate, yes. And the lighted system but it's the RFB. It's like on Webster Street, the smaller light system, right? The option 2 presented was a longer term, more extensive work. It's the roundabout option, with which again includes sidewalks on the addition of sidewalks on the south side of Bro Bridge, the development of the the small traffic circle, and that one has a cost estimate of $232,000.
232, okay.
Yeah. So I believe we've kind of already done what's being proposed as a motion here.
Yeah.
Right?
So like,
Say about that.
Myself, I would go with number 2 right away rather than spending 80,000. So, you know, just adding on. So, there's already a promotion.
Il y a une motion sur la table de demander à
There's
l'administration.
already a motion on the table to ask the administration to look at the file and to come with a recommendation. That's the option. The consultant presented some options. If you want to make some improvements, you can do that, or you can do this. So far, the motion put forward by Councillor Sylvie is for the administration to look at this and to tell us how much this is going to cost also, because we can't, I don't know where we're going to get the money.
So, je crois que c'est juste cette partie-là, là, plus, là. I don't think it's a redesigning of the whole thing, là, ce côté-là. Ça répond, ouais?
We'll leave the process go.
Okay, so j'ai une motion sur la table
Answers your
pour
question. So
l'administration
I
revient.
have a motion on the table for the administration to come back with, to say, if you're going to do this, where you're going to get the money from, and we're going for the long term or the short term project. Long term would be the roundabout. Councillor Paul, comment about the sidewalks.
Wait, a whole Broadway from east to west. De ma connaissance, il y a des places en ville qui auraient plus besoin d'étudier.
According to me, there are other places in the city where we really have to look at sidewalks, like Greenwood, to put in two sidewalks on Bro Bridge to find a solution just to cross the road. I think that's maybe a little bit much. I would like to look at other options that we have with our budget for sidewalks in the city, because Bro Bridge already has a lot of sidewalk. It's nicely designed from one end to the other. And then you have that. I understand your idea, but we're asking about what the administration should do, what the motion, but the recommendation includes a sidewalk in both cases, actually. Councillor Jeunesse. I have a question. We asked Globe to come to do some research, and they were first saying that they weren't recommending anything because they said it wasn't necessary. But then the council asked a group to provide solutions. Can we talk to the citizens in the area? Because if we're putting in roundabouts, we should get the citizens involved there. We should, because we're adding things for safety, but if it bothers them or annoys them, is there any point where we're going to think about that issue? Is that going to be next week or what? Again, the motion currently is, I wanted to bring that up because I understand safety is important and everything, but I will allow you to ask that question once we have gone through the motion about having the administration come back with how we're going to, or which of those options, or how we're going to do those options.
Donc, to summarize, the motion is to direct staff on how to implement the options that were presented by Englobe, the consultant. All right. Tous en faveur, en diront oui. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
All in favor, all opposed?
Motion adopté. Motion carried. On fera un petit bout de chemin. Sur le point.
We're getting somewhere here.
Tu veux proposer qu'on
Now, Councillor Jeunesse, if you want to propose that we bring that to that community, the immediate community, to discuss with them, get their feedback on this, I think it would be important, yes, because maybe we think this would be great, but maybe that would be a terrible idea for them. Maybe they want sidewalks or I want to satisfy them. So I think that those options should be brought. So you're proposing that those options be brought to the public for feedback.
Don't bring that forward for public for feedback. So une consultation. Censément organiser une soirée, on présente qu'est-ce que c'est. Les dessins du consultant sont déjà là, so that at least visually that's possible. Conseiller Jeunesse propose. Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un qui
So it's moved by Councillor Jeunesse. Is there anyone who seconds? Conseillère Sylvie, Councillor Sylvie, debates. All in favor? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Say nay. Carried. Thank you. So this is a review of the meeting of the Planning Committee. There was a meeting 5:30 and it ended just before this meeting.
PRAC, what they propose is that they will start earlier, but they will finish by 7 p.m. as they did tonight. So that's what they were proposing instead of having it on a different night, à place d'une différente soirée. Parfait. Anyway.
All right.
Assurance pour les membres du conseil qui est à la suite.
Insurance for council members. I believe that Councillor Joel had answered this. Are there any questions about this? This is if you're traveling. I think there's one section that wasn't sent. One section was sent, but the other one wasn't. We'll find it and send it. All right. That's right. The second section wasn't sent.
What's covered, what's not covered. For when traveling. At least that was c'était ça la question principale. Numéro 11.5, traduction simultanée, simultaneous translation.
11.5, simultaneous translation. Now we have two translators who switch off. Now we have two interpreters who do translation and spell each other. And there's costs associated with that. So
simultaneous translation is now being done by two people, so they can have a relay. So one does it for a bit, and takes a break. The other one, the partner does that and goes back and forth, so they can go for a longer period of time. Essentiellement. Additional costs with that, because we now have two translators. L'administration, the administration was just asking, is there anything else? Essentiellement, est-ce qu'il y avait autre chose? J'ai quelques personnes.
We've got some people who wanted to speak about this. Councillor Peter. The question has to do with the translation system. I find it strange that the monitor is there. I think that we should I think it should work like that. Has to be looked at. And we need a better system than this. Otherwise, people are going to have to like crane their necks. If you have to basically use TV antenna, that's something strange about.
Be added or need to be more or adjusted in some way, well, that'll be looked after. So I pretty got. Merci, Conseiller Peter.
Thank you, Councillor Peter. Councillor Patricia. It's not one person and no, they spell each other. That's the way it works. So the cost is doubled for each meeting. That is correct. So we have to adjust our budget for that purpose. Either that, or we limit our meetings to 2 hours. We'll be giving you cost estimates on that.
Translation costs will be increased because we now have 2 translators, and because the other option was we could only translate for a maximum of 2 hours before the translator would. There's a limit to how long a translator can be in service, I guess. So the budget will be adjusted accordingly to those increased costs, and it's a must anyway. Merci.
Thank you.
Introduction aux affaires nouvelles.
Introduction to new business. We wanted to discuss the possible dates to discuss the 10-year plan. We're all right for 2023, but for the next 10 years, we talked to Bob and we're talking about raising the awareness of the new council members to the city plan. And we're waiting for the general management to be in place before that. We do that. Once that person is hired, we will give you dates. It could be March, but it might be more in April.
We would like to have the plan approved before the end. Just you should all have received the 10-year plan, like I sent it on Friday.
Quick discussion on possible dates that we could get together and review the 10-year plan. It's going to be like an hour and more. So just to not necessarily do it all in one evening, but maybe a couple of times, and to provide the opportunity for new council members to come up to speed with that. And so in terms of 2023, like this year's projects, that's already been approved by prior council, so that those will be going ahead, certain streets and whatnot, infrastructure. But this would be for for longer term anyway. Councillor McEnroy.
Mayor, I would think that it would make sense to wait until the new CAO is in place.
Yes, that's what he actually said. Sorry.
Before we set dates?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So sounds good, because the idea was to have it when the new CAO is here. Yeah. So, pick some dates in March anyway. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Anyway, perfect. There we go. All right. So, beaucoup de discussions qui vont venir.
A lot of discussion coming up. Number 12.2, procedural of the council of the town of Shediac, electronic meeting. Wanting to know if the council, now that our system is in place, if they have the intention to allow electronic remote meeting. If it's the case, we will have to modify the procedural bylaws of February 27th. Councillor Cormier, Mr. Mayor, we're in 2023, so we went through a pandemic. We tried those new electronic means, and And we were told like legally and verbally, like we had the intention, like so if you need a motion, I'm ready to do so. Certainly. Councillor Commercier, I do not want to put words in your mouth. Yes, we would implement a system so we can have electronic meetings as the local governance as allows us.
As permitted by the Local Governance Act, ça permet des réunions hybrides, it permits hybrid meetings.
So we can have hybrid meetings.
You know, so Conseil Cormier, t'es prêt à faire ça?
Councillor Cormier, you ready to do this motion?
Councillor Germaine Gallon, appuyé de Conseillère Germaine Gallon.
Seconded by Germaine Gallon. Questions, Councillor Sylvie. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree, and however, I would like that to make sure it doesn't become like meetings where a councillor decide to never be here. The Act on Local Government limit, like a councillor can only miss or only participate like remotely, not more than 25% of the meeting. So that's a legal limit because it could happen. Yes, there's always exception to the rule, and I agree with that. It's just to make sure it doesn't become like a question of laziness, but it can. We're not lazy for sure. And condition one, you have to be outside the region, and two, like you are sick or physically incapacitated.
Maximum of 25% of your meetings you could participate electronically. That's it. It's not permitted to do more than that. So there, I mean, the idea you must be also either out of the region or incapacitated. You know, I mean, nous sommes toujours dans une pandémie. We're still in the pandemic.
Yeah, we're still in
Vous n'avez plus de plexiglas entre
you
vous.
don't have plexiglass between you.
I would hope you do the right thing and participate by distance. Donc, proposé par le Conseil Roland Cormier.
Moved by Councillor Roland Cormier, seconded by Councillor Germaine Gallon. All those in favor signify saying aye.
Contre, no.
Against nay.
Adopté. Motion
Carried. Thank you. We're in 2023, so. 12.3 Sewer Commission. Councillor Roland Cormier. Mr. Mayor, as you know, at the last meeting, we were informed that from now on, there would only be like 4 members on the Sewer Commission, 2 representatives from the town of Shediac and 2 representatives from Cap Acadie. And as you know, like we were informed, like 95% of the users who lives in Shediac and some live in Cap Acadie. And I think there was a consensus, like there was a consensus that we write a letter to the minister saying that that this has to be legislated. So it's telling him that we would like for him to look at to balance or modify like this to be more equitable as possible. So the citizen of Shediac has a representative. And on this motion, I would like we'd copy our 2 MLAs because there's 2 MLA. That would be ready to make that motion, Mr. Mayor. Moved by Councillor Roland Cormier. Seconded by Councillor Joël Després to write a letter. La proposition.
For seeking amendments to the legislation of the Clean Environment Act, which outlines how many folks in a municipality can serve on a wastewater commission or water commission, if that be the case. Question.
Question. All those in favor saying aye. Against.
Adopté.
Carried. Thank you. 13 inquiries by members of council. I know a few of them like mentioned they wanted to talk, so I will take them. Mr. Deputy Mayor Jean-Claude Bertin. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Monsieur Bello. A concerned like maritime tribe. I think they sent a letter like they just want to know if you will contact her, like concerning the rent at the Big Lobster. Yeah, I received an email at the end of the day, and I have a meeting with the team by the end of this week or early next week to assess the situation. I just wanted to do a follow-up. Rotary Park, the Pascal Poirier Park, with a really local harvest, so we're not sure. And I, like Main Street, I wanted to know if the letter was sent to the guy also. I will get back to you. Thank you. Councillor Emile, Paul, and then Councillor Roland.
I want to talk about the project Access to Water that we've been working on for a little while. I have serious worries about that project. And just to let my colleague Harry and Marie know, I prepared my notes in French. And but anyway, I'm going to read my notes in French because I prepared in French. So I think your translation is working.
Good,
right?
everybody.
Yeah. So,
Hopefully it works.
Yeah. So okay. So anyway, here goes. This is what I want to say.
Okay. I'm not sure.
Who I want to send this message to. Pas certain où on est rendu avec ce projet.
I'm not sure where we're at with this project, like for the access to water, but one thing I'm sure, it seems like nothing will be done for this project on time for this summer. That's it now. I talked with a lot of people since the beginning of the project, and anyone I talked to agreed that the town is investing close to $1 million in its infrastructure for water access on the Riverside Drive. On top of this, no one for the group of 400 citizens who presented like a petition to the town, to voice against like the blockage to water access. No individual of this group is asking the town for an infrastructure for close to $1 million to have access to water on Riverside Drive, and especially none of the people I talked with was in favor of modifying like the Webster Park in a public parking. So the Webster Park was given to the town, so it remained a green space. And I think it's important like the town follows this condition and leave the Webster Park as is, a green space. Out of the 9 recommendations for the Englobe report, with 3 of those elements, the town would be in a good position to complete this project on time before the summer season, which is coming quite quickly. 9 recommendations, 9 items. On item 6, that were like a floating wharf, like for a canoe, kayak, and for a cost at 35,000. And it was to add also like another access on Riverside Drive for 1,000, and then in addition to control the traffic for $100,000. With those 3 items, we could really make this give access to water on Riverside Drive for around 175,000. It wouldn't cost $1 million, and it's not what the public is asking for. But since, according to the study of the recommendation made by Englobe, the water access project can be done for 175,000 by using only 3 recommendations, and the project could be completed before the summer season of 2023. So I'm hoping with the goal of completing this project on time, that the suggestion be considered in the committee of protection that will be delivered to the council on the next meeting at the end of February. Thank you. Thank you. So the members of the protection committee can take it to consideration to the committee of protection committee as yeah.
Did you get most of that through your translation? Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Tu me sauves de parler longtemps, c'est bon.
So I don't have to talk as much. He said it's great. So just a reminder. Just a reminder. Essentially, like the protection committee at the request of the council, would review the file, get back to the council. They did not choose a date. As soon as they reviewed like the report, and then they will be able to make a recommendation. Perfect. I think I just noted this. Okay. Oh, good. I have 3 others who asked to talk. Councillor Cormier, it was finished. Councillor Paul Boudreau, you were the next one, and then I had Roland, Patricia, and Joel. Yes, Mr. Mayor, just a quick comment, like, we thank you, the Protection Committee's meeting Wednesday at noon, so it's on the agenda. The intent is exactly like it's to take the last report from Englobe, and it was showing like the Cadillac, and really to review like to make sure to have access to water for 2023. Eventually, it will bring the recommendation. It was recommended that we did other project when we're developing some street public street. So we invited people to see what it's still on the agenda. So thanks for your comment. So the other, Mr. Mayor, we discussed a little bit last week, and so for the Cornwall Street, I do not want to take the whole evening on this one. It was mostly like for the recommendation, the variance for the project. We don't have a say like on the variance, like we have no power. I'm a council member, the council also, the variance we referred like the sewer commission for the wastewater capacity. So I do not have a clear answer if we go forward with this project, that it might maybe be a barrier like for the development on the west side. So the other variants, so the expertise from the province for environment, the traffic study, we went around the table. So good commission, like we said, to good individual for the wastewater submission.
On that side of Main Street, let's say the high school, an example, the high school, that project would be on the table, and we're with that project that's for the Cornwall Point project. If we can't go ahead because we don't have the capacity for infrastructure, what are we going to do? That's my worry. The rest of the project is okay, but I'm not sure if you can answer on that, guys.
Peut-être, oui, c'est nous deux représentants sur le conseil d'administration de la commission. Ben, peut-être on aimerait d'avoir un.
I have 2 representatives on the commission, but maybe we need to get an opinion from the administrator, the operator of the main system. Invite them, so at least we're better aware of what's happening. Because before this comes forward, we should know, because the sewer commission is a good partner of the city development of streets and infrastructure. And what I want is to make sure that we have the capacity to do development better. That variance is a red flag for me. Councillor Roland, Patricia, Joel, and Jeunesse. I didn't think I was going to be speaking on this point. It appears to be urgent for certain councillors and even certain residents. I'm not saying it isn't urgent, but we're being told that the committee is a meeting Wednesday, but I wanted to notify you that there are 4 new councillors who have no idea of what this report says. I haven't seen it. Fine to have recommendations, but it's going to be hard to vote on something we don't even know. So I'm not trying to slow things down here, but I just want to notify you that we have the right as councillors to get the information before we vote on recommendations. But 2 questions I had, Mr. Mayor, are, I'm coming out of a training session here. Are we dealing with canoe procurement? Mayor or clerk. I can check with finances on that. I'm not saying that we should go there or shouldn't, but I'm suggesting that we at least, given what we saw in Fredericton on the weekend, maybe it's a tool that we could use to save some money. If we can, then great. If we can't, then so be it. Now, the other thing must be less important since I forgot what it was. I saw that we have an agreement with Capacadi. Do we have an agreement with the Moncton and Dieppe firefighters? If we have that agreement with them for the ladder trucks, and what does it cover if we do have it? It's agreement, but it's not a written agreement. That mutual assistance agreement. Maybe we could get you to come back to us on that. Yes, because we have an agreement with Capacadi because we serve an area covered by them, so that. Given the municipal reform and the larger city, Beausoleil, which used to be Cocagne, were we serving a part of what became Beausoleil? Maybe they could describe which brigade, which cover areas are covered by which brigade. Good. Patricia, thank you. I wanted to bring up the question of access to water, further to what Mr. O'Brien said. I made a proposal that we would go approach the owner of the quay to find out if they might want to sell it, and did we approach them? Maybe there's some other factors that were coming into play there. I just wanted to know where were we at with the question of that. The lawyer was hired, was retained, Mr. Marc-Antoine Chasson. He made a brief report around the holidays. And there are a number of other things to be determined. I'm waiting for the town manager to come back with those items. So and I can't speak at greater length about that, but it will make progress, but it is not moving as fast as we maybe had hoped or expected. There's still some work to be done on that to find out whether it's possible to reach an agreement. So maybe those guys could work, or the safety committee could work on the design. See if there's any adjustments to the design. Doesn't cost anything to discuss it. We can cut costs, but it has to be safe, obviously, for the people who are on Riverside Drive. I'm all for cutting costs, but not cutting costs at the expense of security, safety, that is. Yep, safety first. different, that's a different item, but so the recommendation that she made does it come to the protection committee and then goes to the city council? Everything that goes to a committee by virtue of its nature, in other words, if that's what the committee is supposed to do, and it then has to come back to the council. Sometimes the council will refer something to the committee, and then the committee will come back with a recommendation. And then it's up to the council to decide. Either they design it and they conceive of it of their own accord, or they have been given instructed to do so, and then they come back with a report. Jeunesse, we have a recommendation about the sewers committee. We have the fire chief who comes once a month, the RCMP. Maybe we should have every couple of months have an update from the sewers commissioner. That person should come to our meetings at least once every couple of months to give us an update. Not just once because we happen to discuss something that mattered to them. If it's not every month, well, maybe every couple of months, but I think we should invite them to come on a regular basis. We can discuss that with the commission, yes. Good. Councillor O'Brien.
This is just a request to administration. Is it possible to make sure that a copy of the INGLO report to access water is sent to like 4 colleagues in council?
Yeah.
Make sure they have a copy in English and in French, because Roland just mentioned that he didn't know anything about this project. So just to make sure that they know what's happening. Did they not get a copy of the report, of the INGLO report, the new councillors? Or no? There you go. Okay, so
If I could interject, Mayor.
Councillor McElroy?
We got a copy en français. I requested one in English, but was told it's not available.
Okay. Probably, yeah. I
Hope has the capacity to resolve that.
yeah.
can we accommodate that request?
Ben, je crois que c'est nécessaire.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
I believe it is necessary. Well, if it is necessary for correspondence, will you?
La dernière, juste pour clarification, la dernière fois qu'on a eu une présentation d'un globe.
By the way, the last time we received a presentation from Englobe was before they even were elected.
For new councillors. Right. Okay. Thank you.
Parfait, merci. C'est tout pour les demandes de renseignement. Merci.
Is that it for requests for information? Good.
Donc, 14.1.
14.1.
Qui est la deuxième lecture de l'arrêté pour un arrêté de modification sur le plan municipal pour la
Second reading of order number P 14369P, order amending the municipal plan for the Maison Webster.
Le plan municipal de la ville de Chilliac soit fait par son titre et dans son intégralité.
So that this has been second reading has taken place, proposed, seconded. Is
technology is working? Good, still going, and it's in written as well. Okay, parfait.
Great. Okay. All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Carried. Next one is 14.2, third reading of order number P 14369P, order amending the municipal plan, Mason and Webster. The municipal council of Shediac says that this order number P 14 be tabled under the number 337 and 9605, May 23rd, 2014, and amended as follows. Map of land use found in Annex A and found in A9 is amended with the designation of the ownership of the land 701 7013966 70129450075 in 7062456 a all as described in Appendix C. We accept the second reading of this document in its entirety. Moved by Sylvie, seconded by Patricia Chevalier. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Carried. Third reading. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Third reading of this amendment about the Maison Webster House. That this reading be accepted, proposed, moved, seconded. Any questions about the motion? All in favor saying yes. Aye, nay. Carried.
Merci. Arrêté numéro P-14-36-9P, un arrêté modifiant le plan municipal de Chédiac numéro P-14-36.
Qu'on accepte le troisième lecture par titre de l'aide et l'adoption de l'arrêté numéro P-14-36-9P. Je fais approuver ça, Monsieur le maire.
La gorge me chatouille un petit peu. Proposé par la conseillère Sylvie Colette Boudreau, appuyé de la conseillère Patricia Bourg-Chevary.
By Council, Sylvie Colette Boudreau, seconded by Bourg-Chevary. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. So the municipal plan, like for the Webster House, has been modified. Councillor Germaine Galland, we will read like the rezoning zoning bylaw. Thank you. Second reading of bylaw Z-14-44-49Z, a bylaw amending the zoning bylaw Webster House. I move that the second reading of bylaw Z-14-44-49Z, a bylaw amending the zoning bylaw of the Shediac be read the second time by its title and its entirety. I shall moved by Councillor Germaine Galland, seconded by Councillor Paul Boudreau. All those in favor saying aye. Against, nay. Carried. Mr. Clerk. So it's the bylaw Z-14-49, allied by amending the zoning bylaw of the town of Shediac with the powers of the planning out, like the bylaw of the town of Shediac, the bylaw like Z-14-44 edicted on April 29, 2014 and deposited at the Westmoreland County Office 70935 on May 23rd, 2014 be modified as follows. One, like the Appendix A of the zoning map of the town of Shediac, as mentioned also in the zoning bylaw, is modified by this map. Councillor Germain. I move that we accept the second reading of the bylaw Z dash 14 dash 44 dash 41 Z by the title and in its entirety. Moved by Councillor Germain Gala. Seconded by Councillor Paul Boudreau. Questions on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye, against nay. Against nay. Carried. Third reading of the bylaw, Councillor Germain. Third reading of bylaw number Z dash 14 dash 44 dash 49 Z, a bylaw amending the zoning bylaw, Webster House. I move that the third reading of bylaw Z dash 14 dash 44 dash 49 Z, a bylaw amending the zoning bylaw of the town of Shediac be done by its title. Moved by Councillor Germain Galland, seconded by Sylvie Colette Boudreau. Questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. I did not look there, so. Councillor Lepre, so my question is concerning the last meeting we had. Mr. Abo asked to remove like what like the characteristic to allow like different build infrastructure on the same line. Was it in the next resolution? Is where like the conditions are like. And I think like when I look, I took a glance of it. So the conditions that were for recommendation that are the same conditions that were recommended by the commission that did not include to add anything. So they added like the addition. So there was one presenter like to add restriction, but the commission did not recommend this. So it will be at the next item. So all those in favor signify saying aye. Against nay. Carry. Mr. Clerk, I will refer like to the second reader first, and because it's a third reading, we're doing that. So it's a municipal plan. It's really the bylaw with. So the bylaw Z dash 14 dash 44 dash 49, a bylaw amending the zoning bylaw of the Z 14 dash 44 dash 49 Z for the town of Shediac. I move that to accept the third reading by its title of the bylaw Z dash 44 dash 44 dash 49 Z. Moved by Councillor Germain Galland, seconded by Sylvie Colette Boudreau. She's looking at me. All those in favor signify saying aye. Against me. Motion carried. Thank you. The readings are done. Councillor Janice, it was for the conditions. So yes, thank you. Resolution adopted pursuant to Section 59 of the Community Planning Act, bylaw Z-14.44.44Z. Whereas the Town Council of Shediac accepted the request made by Monique Cambo to rezone the property bearers identification number of 701-36841, 701-39266, 701-39274, 0097374, and 70624 564 in the town of Shediac from low density residential R1 to general commercial GC in order to allow a restaurant, a bed and breakfast, and events. Be it resolved that the following conditions apply to bylaw Z-14-44-49Z. Notwithstanding all other provisions to the contrary, the lands, building, and structures on the above mentioned property are subject to the following terms and conditions. That the permitted uses on the property be limited to one or several of the following uses. 1, a restaurant. 2, a hotel or motel. 3, a cultural center or entertainment facility, a museum or amusement park. And 4, a bed and breakfast. Subject to section 1 of this resolution, all provision prescribed in zoning bylaws said 14-44 that for the general commercial zone shall apply mutatis mutandis. I shall move. Moved by Councillor Janice Cormier. Seconded by Councillor Jean Gallant. So mutatis mutandis. So these are two Latin words. Questions on the motion? As I said, like it was the same recommendation that the commission did. Councillor Sylvie. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So thank you, Peter, to bring this comment. Is it clear, like, because I would like to show me the line, like where buildings can be modified or added, like so we can have approve what we said, but I know like it's more to read between the lines, like we have no one from the. And Mr. Abo is here too, so. But Mr. Abo did not read the bylaw. I think it was Jeff to confirm what Mr. Abo asked to make sure, like, that we ensure, like, before we approve it. So the condition is more or less clear. It says one or more of the following uses that were showed. If it's not on the list, it wouldn't be allowed, but he can do several, many of those things. The only thing, like the building itself, like the Webster's house, is still on the list of under historical property. So it means a modification to the structure of the main house itself. They will need a amendment from the council. And thank you for this, but I think if I understood well, correct me if I'm wrong, like it was like to have like minor additions. Maybe it's something they might want to come later. So maybe Mr. Abo, you can explain. Maybe I did not understand it properly. Like for this, you will have to go to the mic. And Jeff, you can correct me. So the question, like to add like little cabins or small cottages, it was not the request presented today. It would have to come with a request, and then the commission will process it. So maybe I could add like use like a hotel allowed. So yes, they would be able like to have the cottagers to rent, but they cannot build like an apartment or residence, any type of businesses other than what's a part of the list. Maybe one or several hotels, that would be allowed. So I would like to clarify, like, so the business plan, like for the Webster House, so there's 3 months of the touristic season in Shediac. So if we rent our rooms like those 3 months every day, so it's 300,000, and the interest and the municipal taxes are more, the property more than 300,000. So we need more than this. We need some kind of flexibility, like to add something, to add other things that are part of the zoning. We're not asking to add, I don't know, a flea market or anything like that. Maybe it's a weird example, but it's really like to stay within like the frame of the zoning. Thank you. So moved by Councillor Janice, seconded by Councillor Germaine, I think. Councillor Roland. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think also like the Abo family like is a family very well appreciated in the community. They manage like a business, and I'm very comfortable and confident like they will do things well. They did it properly before. So I'm confident like they will do the right thing. It's a good decision. We have an historical building, a gem, like in Shediac, one of the only gems that they are ready like to invest some money in to make it more cost effective. And I would rather support a project that in 5 years from now, like the Ambo family decided to close the door and then to demolish like a gem. Usually once we demolish them, we do not have them again. So I think we have to support this. And I'm confident they will do the right thing. Thank you, Mr. Cormier. All those in favor signify saying aye. Against nay. Carried. Thank you. Next item, it's the purchase of equipment like a plow. Councillor Murray.
I move that we accept the recommendation of the administration to purchase new equipment for the plow and that we accept the lowest bid from Strongco in the amount of $96,715, better HST included. These funds will come from the council's special projects account 1-28253.
So moved by Councillor Murray Lloyd, seconded by Councillor Germaine Galland. Questions? Sinon, all those in favor say aye. Oh, excusez. J'ai gardé vite, puis t'avais pas.
You look really fast. I had it faster. Just a quick question. The same question I asked the last time I was talking about the warranty. I'm not saying you were not sure of the warranty. I just want to make sure, like an overview, like so what we're buying. I know what we're buying, but what type of warranty we have on this. I have information on this. And so the warranty, standard warranty with the equipment is 1 year, but we just have to register like the piece of equipment on their website, and they give us like 5 years. So that's what we're planning on doing. Simple as that, you just register. Perfect.
There's a 5-year guarantee, apparently, as long as we register, by all means. Conseiller Joël.
Merci, Monsieur Mayor.
Councillor Joël, thank you. I have a question for this. So this part, the plow you're buying, of course, it will work better. So is there like a plan, like you have a plan, like you don't come in a month and say this piece of equipment is broken and we have to invest like another $100,000. Like you have a plan to look at the machinery, like so this information and the plan, it's really planned like in our 10-year plan. So it will be part of the document that will be presented. All our capital planning for equipment and the project, they're all part of this document. I will look at my screen. So all those in favor saying aye. Against nay. Carried. Thank you.
Numéro 17.
Nomination number 17, the adjournment. So Sylvie Colette Boudreau is moving the adjournment of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Pour les membres du conseil, vous restez là.
Council member, you have to stay, but